Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another video. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, so I'm really excited for this week's video. I'm going to be giving you guys a crash course with concise, quick, useful information that you will need when learning to speak Spanish. Ever since I started learning Spanish, I have always thought that Spanish pronunciation and spelling is way easier than whatever is going on in English. For example, in English, we have rules like I before E, except after C, except in A as in neighbor and way. I think it's something like that. But like then immediately after, we break those rules over and over again with words like either or height or weird. So today I'm going to show you guys how we can take full advantage of how phonetic Spanish is and hopefully speed up the process of learning how to speak Spanish well. So today we're going to start by focusing on vowels, which I find are the most important part to sounding Spanish. So Spanish has what's called a simple vowel system, which means that there's only 5 different vowels and they're easily contrasted from each other, which is one of the major differences between Spanish and English. So the vowels are as follows, and I want you guys to repeat after me, practice making these sounds because you will only need these 5. A, E, I, O, U. This is compared to general American English, which is what I'm speaking now, which has 12 different vowel sounds, and by other reports has even more. Other accents of English can have like 20 or more, which is crazy. But because of that, a common error I notice among Anglophones is getting the vowels wrong. Something we do particularly often is vowel reduction to a schwa. So let me just explain that real quick. So schwa is this vowel that is shaped like an upside down E, and it is pronounced It's a very neutral vowel, very relaxed. We love this sound schwa so much because she's so easy to pronounce, she's so friendly that we turn a lot of unstressed syllables into schwa without even realizing it. But we must not do this when we speak Spanish. So for example, the Spanish word cansada has 3 A's, and each A has to be pronounced exactly the same. An English speaker might say cansada, cansada, schwa, schwa. But what we need is plain and simple, cansada. Ella está cansada. So in the future, I don't want to hear this O syllable that people make when they order tacos or burritos like a gringo. They say tacos, burritos. But that is overcomplicating things. You need to say tacos y burritos. Just remember A, E, I, O, U are always pronounced exactly the same. An American would say California, but a Spaniard would say California. California. Notice how the first A and the last A are pronounced exactly the same. California. Now, my final little tip for vowels is that sometimes in Spanish, multiple vowels between words, whether the same vowel or not, can combine into one syllable. In the phrase se ha acabado, an English speaker might have the temptations to add glottal stops like I just did, to have se ha acabado. But a more natural way to say it would be se ha acabado. Se ha acabado. And in really fast speech, it's literally like se acabado, se acabado, se acabado. Or esto te va a ayudar. You wouldn't say esto te va a ayudar, but what you should do is say esto te va a ayudar. Almost like esto te va a ayudar. Esto te va a ayudar. Okay, now we're moving on to consonants, and we're going to start off with the tongue flap R, ra, ara. Now, this one sounds hard, but honestly, if you're an English speaker, I say there's no excuses because this sound actually does exist in English. In words like butter, city, wedding, it's a very rapid tongue tap against the roof of your mouth, so it's very fast. That's the sound you hear in words like pero, America, or Shakira, ra, ra, ra. Practice it, you guys got this. Okay, the second one is a bit harder and it is distinguished with a singular R tap, which is the rolled R, the ra, ra. So you'll basically pronounce R this way whenever there is a double R, and this sound is actually used to contrast from the single R in Spanish. For example, caro y carro, or pero and perro. Different words. You also have a light roll when there is an R at the beginning of a word. So for example, Rosa or Roberto. Now let's move on to what you do when you see the letters C, S, or Z in Spanish. This can be really confusing because it varies heavily depending on where you're from. So in Spain, C before an I or an E is essentially like the TH in the word thing in English. It's that infamous Spanish lisp. So you can hear it in words like información or bicicleta. And in Spain, the Z is actually pronounced the exact same way. So it's pronounced th. So I never want to hear that English z buzzing sound. It doesn't exist in any regional variety of Spanish. So you're not going to say zapatos, azúcar, Ibiza. You're going to say zapatos, azúcar, and Ibiza. And the S is where Spaniards and Latin Americans agree because it's always pronounced s, s, just like the S in English. Here's a test. This sentence. How would you pronounce it in Spain? It would be yo no hice lo que tú hiciste. So notice there's actually both. There's th and s. Now on the other hand, in Latin America, the Z and also the C before I or E is pronounced the exact same as ese. So those sounds are actually not distinguished from each other in Latin American countries. So what happens is that we have a bunch of words that are homophones in Latin American Spanish, like hacia and hacia, or cerrar y cerrar. In Latin America, they're pronounced exactly the same. But in Spain, you actually have to pronounce these words differently. Hacia, hacia, cerrar, cerrar. Different pronunciations. Okay, moving on to the letters G y J. So the G is pronounced just like the English G in go in these sequences. Ga, go, gu, ge, gi. In words like gato, gozar, alguno, guerra, guitarra is pronounced with this hard G sound. So here's a test. What about this word? If you pronounced it guiño, you're correct. It's not guiño, it's just guiño. Now the G in Spanish is so light sometimes that sometimes the sequence of sounds G-U-A in Spanish actually sounds more like a wa, wa. So in the words guapo, guay, can end up pronounced like guapo, guay. Especially if you're speaking fast and informally, someone could say, que guay, que guay. Now the G and the J come into play with this other sound, with the sound, very guttural. So in words like gente, girar, jamón, mejor, justicia. So next I'm going to be talking about these sounds. P, t, k. When we have them in English, we typically aspirate these sounds. For example, pan, tan, Canada, with a kind of light blow of air afterward. People don't realize this, but we do this. And you want to take that away when you pronounce these in Spanish. You want to sound more like pan, tan, Canada. So for this sentence, you wouldn't want to pronounce it por favor, intenta calmar a Carla. That's actually really hard. You'd want to pronounce the sounds por favor, intenta calmar a Carla. It's a much more subtle sound. So next, let's move on to the subtle differences in the pronunciation of the letter D. De in Spanish is actually a bit further front than you would expect it to be. So the tongue is almost in between the teeth when you say it. De, de, de. And it's lighter than our English D, D. It's de, de. A sentence like this would be pronounced dime, ¿dónde te han dado esos dólares? Now we have to know what to do when we see a Y or a double L in Spanish. To do this exactly right is always hard for people because it does also vary from region to region. But generally speaking, across Spanish dialects, the tongue gets brought up way higher than in English when we have this Y sound. So in English, we pronounce it like you, yes. But the way I think about it, you almost want to pronounce it kind of like how Ariana Grande pronounces yeah, yeah, yeah. Why am I doing this? But it is true, you do bring the tongue up a little bit higher for that release. That's also why you might notice a native Spanish speaker speaking English might pronounce those words a bit more like you or yes. So some Spanish words to practice are pollo, llamada, y Nueva York. You guys have got this one, it's not too hard. Next piece of important information is that the H, if you see it, is always silent. It's obviously a super rookie mistake to say like hola. Everyone knows it's hola, hola. Next, we got ñ, otherwise known as the N with a squiggly above it. This is pronounced just like in the Spanish loanword piñata. So other examples are baño or español. Ñ. Last comment about vowels that I want to make is that when you see a V, you don't really pronounce it V. So this V that we have in English, where our bottom lip makes contact with our teeth, that doesn't happen in Spanish, no matter the region. You don't want to hear it. So you don't want to say vamos or diversidad. You want to say vamos, diversidad. So it's almost like a beat. So actually in Spanish, the pronunciation of blog and blog are pretty much the same, and it's very hard, if not impossible, to distinguish them. And all these other consonant sounds that I haven't mentioned, when you see them, just pronounce them exactly like you would in English. But yeah, we're done talking about consonants. Okay, so now moving on to stress. So Spanish has a very consistent system that lets you know where to put the stress in a word. If the word ends with a vowel, the stress always lands on the penultimate syllable, which is the second to last syllable of the word. We have words like organizado, organizado. We emphasize the th. And for words that end with a consonant, the stress goes on the very last syllable. Organizar, or español. Voy a aprender español. Now, the only time where these rules are not applying is when you have a tilde. The tilde, which is this accent mark, lets you know that that is a syllable that should be stressed instead. So in a word like lápiz, it ends with this consonant, so it should be lápiz. But it's telling you here that you have to stress the A instead. Lápiz. Stress is used contrastively in Spanish. Límite, that's the noun for limit. But then we also have limite, which is the subjunctive third person singular of the verb limitar. And then we also have limite, which is the first person singular past indicative of the verb limitar. So we have limite, limite, and limite, which all mean different things. So you gotta be careful with that. So if you've listened to this whole video, you should now be able to pronounce any Spanish word you come across correctly, accurately, like a true Spaniard or a Latin American person. Now, before we close out the video, let's practice a little bit. Let's put those skills to use. Let's learn to pronounce some cognates that are spelled the exact same in English and in Spanish, so then you can really hone in on the differences in pronunciation. Let's go. Just remember to consider how to pronounce all the vowels, all the consonants, and where to put the stress. So first word, animal. How would you pronounce that in Spanish? The correct answer is animal, animal. Second word, alcohol. How would you pronounce alcohol in Spanish? It's alcohol, alcohol. Next word, central. In Spanish, that's central, central. Or in Latin America, central. Next word, gas, gas. One syllable, should be pretty simple. It's gas, gas. So that A sound is the pure A, remember. And then our very last word, propaganda, propaganda. How do you say this correctly in Spanish? The correct pronunciation is propaganda, propaganda, okay? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, notification bell, all those things. I'm new to this, but I will get that down.